and welcome back to the Talking Wolves podcast. My name is Matthew Cooper and today we're joined by a very special guest, Mr. Tim Spiers. Tim, how are you? Don't put your hand up, it's not you, mate. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, good. Pleasure to be here, guys. Good
it's we're obviously at Molineux as well, end of season podcast. Thanks to Wolves for giving us the accessibility to the box. And of course, we're joined by two Talking Wolves regulars. We've got Dave as a party. Dave, how you doing?
Very well, thank you, mate. Thank you.
Good. And Finn Morris. Finn?
Yeah, good as well, thank you. Special day.
Brilliant. So, on the agenda today, it's a bit of a wrap-up. We've got the Liverpool game. We'll be talking about the overall season, where things went right, where things went wrong. But we're looking ahead to the summer. It's going to be a massive summer for Wolves, and I feel like I've been saying that for the past 3 years. We'll discuss our player of the seasons, our awards, etc. We'll look at our betmate team of the season, and of course our questions. Look, chaps, let's start with the Liverpool game on Sunday. Liverpool 3, Wolves 1. Tim, for about 10 minutes, I felt like we were in dreamland.
It was. I'll tell you what, it was an amazing occasion,
Yeah.
like to be part of. Probably the biggest TV audience that have watched Wolves all season, and I thought they did themselves proud. To be honest,
Yeah.
it sort of felt. It reminded me of Nuno's Wolves quite a lot.
Yeah.
In that they were fearless, they were dynamic, they took the game to them. You know, even at 1-1 with 20 minutes to go, they were still attacking in decent numbers on the break. Sort of similar to the Chelsea game as well. And yeah, it was inevitable to me that Liverpool were going to win. Once Wolves missed a couple of decent chances. But I think, do you know what? Even if Wolves were 3-1 up at half time, I still feel like Liverpool would have come back to win. It was just, they had to. But I was just really pleased actually that after what's been a horrendous, few months results-wise, they put on a show and reminded us what they can do. A lot of them we might not see again now, but I thought it was in defeat, it was a really good way to sign off the season.
Dave, when it was 1-0 up, and I think for quite a long time in the first half, I was saying to you, it's going to happen. They're going to score here. Every time we thought they're going to score here, they're going to score here. And for like a small fraction, that was like, can we stop Liverpool from winning the title? But it was all in vain, wasn't it? In the end.
Yeah, and after we went 1-0 up, it was probably the game went so slow. Like every minute,
it was horrible.
Oh my word! And I think I was pretty much like you two. I thought, Liverpool are going to come back. They're going to beat us, but just this tiny part of me thought, what if we can hold on here for another 80 minutes or whatever and hold on to a 1-0 win? But yeah, it wasn't to be. But like Tim said, I thought it was a good way to, although we lost, it was a good way to end the season because it was one of our better performances. The away end was good, a lot of banter with the Liverpool fans as you'd expect, but yeah, a decent ending to the season despite us losing the game.
And Finn, Neto back on the score sheet. It's good. I mean, it's good to see him back. He went off injured, but Wolves capitalising on a Canate mistake. Jimenez looked a little bit back to his former self, and a good finish from Neto in the end.
Yeah, and that's why it's such a shame that he went off because that ball was on every time. That ball, we'd obviously identified it tactically. I mean, it's not a secret that people say about Trent, it's his only weakness, and we seem to be exploiting it in behind. Shame that he went off because after 20 minutes was it? Yeah. That avenue was killed and any hope of winning the game, maybe the slither that I had. It was weird with him scoring. It didn't feel like, we could win this game. It was like, right, this is another level of banter for 5 minutes with the fans. I didn't think we'd have. I thought it would all be City related, and then we went in front. Yeah. So it was a nice moment. Never for a second thought we'd win the game, but good little 5 minutes, yeah. Yeah,
and I thought defensively for about half the first half, Tim, we did all right, but and even after they scored, we looked okay. But I feel like I don't know what happened the last 15-20 minutes. It's almost like I've forgotten how to play. Just trying to keep a line. I know at the Norwich game, the back three just couldn't do it, and we got caught out.
Yeah, well, it was similar to Chelsea again in that you've defended really well for most of the game, and then you've had 5-10 minutes where you've let 2 goals in. But I was pleased to see Bolly back to his old self.
It's a great tackle, wasn't it? Like the last on Salah, was it on Salah when he broke through?
Yeah, and a couple of blocks as well. And Totti Gomez was sort of superb and probably announced himself to an awful lot of people who've never seen him before. Cody was, usual, throwing himself at the ball as well, getting knocked out at one point. My goodness, it was just the occasion as well. When you boys were there, I've never experienced an atmosphere like that in terms of how the crowd felt second half. Like when Villa went 2-0 up at the Etihad, it was like it was frenzied. It wasn't like cheering Liverpool on to victory. It's like, oh my God, the title is in our hands and we're not winning. And they could not believe it. It was like frustration, anger, tension, nerves. It was unbelievable to sort of be there and experience it. And when the goals were going in elsewhere, I mean, it was similar. I don't know if you guys were there 3 years ago.
Yeah,
similar situation. But more so this time. And how in 2022 you can still get misinformation spreading. I mean, it literally was like wildfire. I don't know where it came from that it was 3-3.
I don't think it was the away end either. I don't think
so. We've got credited for it.
We'll take that.
I don't know how it could be because the away end were cheering
City, so we
City goals.
Yeah.
So for that instant, I mean, we're in the press box, sort of surrounded by fans, and they came streaming over, like to look on the TVs that we've got and ask us what the score was. And I'm there on Twitter. It's like there's nothing going on. There's not even a penalty. There's no VAR shout. It was crazy.
Yeah, because you could hear it going like it's a small murmur. And it's like, oh my god, they've done it. I went to him, fucking hell, they've scored again. And I checked my phone. I was like, we can't get any signal. And after 5 minutes, I was like, oh, they haven't. And then obviously when we found out that Villa hadn't, I think there's a goal behind as well. Penalty is a.
I've been Anfield.
I know. When you found out Villa hadn't scored, like in the away end, it was. I know we got nothing to play for, and like Tim said, the past couple of months have been pretty shit as a Wolves fan. But it was almost like a small crumb of comfort from seeing Liverpool fans having the title snatched out their hands.
It was mad, but like they were so salty, as we know Liverpool fans can be. But then they were chucking flares down at us from the upper tier, and then they went mad when Wolves fans threw it back. And
quite unsavoury in parts, wasn't it?
You know what I can't understand as well? The last few weeks, how so many football fans have been able to get like flares and pyros and everything into ground.
I don't know what's happened. But I think the most frustrating thing to take away from the game was we had chances. We had 3 or 4 gilt-edged chances, and I think the one that stands out for me it was at 1-1 where Jimenez puts the ball across the box, and I don't know if there's too much on it or Hwang doesn't quite get there, I've watched it back today, and you can see Podence and Silva there, and they're nutting on the side about it. I think they're laughing as well, Tim.
They are laughing.
Yeah, it's not good that they're laughing though, is it?
It's a terrible.
Yeah,
we are.
But it's just the way that they're both in unison. They're like synchronised swimmers. Like
it's
like putting hands up, and then they just start laughing.
Like on FIFA when 2 players have the same animation.
I said to you at the ground, didn't I? He slid, completely missed the ball. I said to Matt, if he's just stayed on his feet and took an extra 2 steps, he would have kept it in. I didn't know what he was trying to do.
Yeah,
but
we had chances to bring it back, and I think if we'd have beat Norwich or got a few points elsewhere, that game could have been for Europe, and we'd be talking about those chances so much more than we are now. Oh, wasn't it fun to be there? Maybe part of history. Yeah. We've got to be more clinical. And I know it doesn't mean anything, but there's some real good chances.
It was like Tim said. It was nice to see us almost playing the counter like Nuno. Same at Chelsea, like Nuno's team, because I think when you play a team like Liverpool, that's the only way you're going to hurt them. Yeah. Would you agree, Tim? Like that space and beyond, they push up quite high.
Yeah, they exploited it really well. The really annoying chance for me, talking about chances, was Dendoncker.
How many times have we said that the last couple of years?
It's been doing my head in really, because it was at Chelsea as well. Yeah, he had the open goal at Chelsea, and he's just, I remember sort of 18 months ago, 2 years ago, that the staff really thought that he would kick on and be the goal scoring midfielder, but he's basically a goal scoring midfielder who doesn't score because he
gets into good positions.
Gets amazing positions. But he's scored 7 league goals for Wolves now in 4 seasons, I guess it will be, which is just not enough for the positions that he gets in.
Yeah, I mean, we have another guest on the podcast called Tom Parker, and he predicted at the start of the season that Dendoncker would score 15 or more goals in all competitions. So
he probably should have, to be fair.
He's going to say he probably
was that a really late night podcast?
After hours, I think. But it wasn't to be in the end, and it was a bit of an emotional send-off, wasn't it, for Ruben, and even like a few other players. Like I think João Moutinho went straight down the tunnel. Saïs came over and gave a thumbs up, but it was everyone giving Neves the send-off. I mean, I'd had a few beers to him. I was crying in the away, and I was like, I can't believe he's going.
Actually was crying.
I actually was crying. Pathetic.
So what was it like there? Because I was sort of quite far away. You could see bits and bobs, but was it? Did it look like goodbyes from a few?
Neves was like tapping the badge and
then
he
going
looked upset.
like that.
Yeah, a lot of them were doing that. Even Bruno was doing that sort of thing. To be fair,
it could be his last game if you believe everything on Twitter.
Yeah, you don't know, do you? Yeah, but it did seem like, and even at Norwich, I think we all knew as soon as we saw that picture of him teared up. I think we knew he was going. So.
Too many chance that he stays.
So I mean, I grabbed. There's this place called the Mix Zone where you grab players after a game, and tried him thinking that he'd just say no, because most of them do. Yeah. And but especially when there's something rumbling on transfer-wise, they just don't want to come over and chat.
Cody again, is it?
Ruddy or Cody, send them over.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I sort of asked him, you know, about the game first of all, and about the season, and he was eloquent on that as usual. And then I just asked him, you know, about his future, basically an open-ended question.
Yeah.
What can you tell us? And he immediately started with what was very clear to me was a pre-rehearsed line. He wasn't and ahhing. He wasn't like, we'll see what's going to happen. He's like, careers in football are very short, and you need to live your dreams in those times. And that's not the kind of off the cuff,
No,
sort of like a Cantona-esque philosophical thing. And then he repeated exactly the same line again about a minute later. So it was, you know, from doing hundreds of these things over the years, you just know when somebody's got something they want to say. And he was clear to point out nothing's been decided yet, and I do believe that. But he's also very clear that he seems pretty sure to me that he's not going to be here next season. I think everything he's said and done in the last week to 10 days, says that.
Yeah, and I think all the murmurs in the press as well are all pointing towards that. You talk about the mix zone, Tim. So any players, like, I mean, past and present, who are like a real joy to work with? I won't ask you who's an arsehole. I mean, if you want even...
No, yeah.
Who's an arsehole?
Well, it's just the ones who don't stop are really annoying.
Yeah.
Especially if they don't speak great English, then that's fine. But I know of several foreign players who speak exceptional English, like Jean Matinho, who just will not stop. Right? But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, Cody's just a dream.
Yeah.
But Cody takes it upon himself to speak to the fans, which is what I really like. He'll come over without asking sometimes, and it's been pandemic's taken all this away the last couple of years. But before that, he would come over and have his say. You get some really eloquent guys. You know, Dave Edwards, so good at sort of summing up a game. It's difficult for players. I remember Danny Bart telling me once that they've got a bad view of what's going on in terms of incidents and what's happening at the other end of the field. It's difficult for them to come and sum up sometimes, but. You tend to find the leaders in the squad are the better ones. Matt Doherty was always very, very good as well. Who's an arsehole? I'll come back to you on that, but there are definitely a couple.
That's good. Probably not. Are they in the squad now? Or?
No, they're a pretty good bunch of it. I mean, to be fair to them, the amount of interviews they have to do these days is people will probably have no idea, because a lot of time you won't see them. They'll be for international broadcasters, or and they're going to do more pre-match stuff. I'm hearing next season now as well, which is
they're doing stuff at half time as well. I think aren't they? Like manager interviews as well. Ridiculous.
Yeah. Can I butt in? I've just seen that the Telegraph have said that Wolves have made an official approach for João Palhinha.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. There we go. Was that
thoughts, Tim?
Yeah,
live reacting.
live reaction.
Well, he's exactly what they want and what they need, and they've been looking at him for a couple of years, and they need to be putting things in now for the summer before Neves goes rather than after. But I think even if Neves were to stay, he'd be a fantastic addition.
In terms of a box ticking exercise, he's perfect, isn't he? Mendes client, Portuguese central midfielder, big lad. I think that's probably what they're looking for. That's what I'll be looking for anyway.
But in terms of covering, in terms of defensive ability, he's got more than Neves. Naturally, it comes very naturally to him. But also his passing range is excellent. Yeah. And if Neves does go, he can replace that. He can switch it 50 yards in the blink of an eye, and he's really good at controlling the tempo of a game. And obviously, the Portuguese element just means that you can fit in so much more seamlessly into a squad. So it's if they can get the right price for him, it's a really good addition.
If he does come in, can you see him almost being like a replacement for Neves, or Palhinha and then a Neves replacement as well?
No, I could see them playing together, but it probably depends on what formation you want next season. But if you've got three in midfield, with him sitting and Neves just ahead, and then someone further on, Gibbs White maybe, for example, or a Gibbs White type player, then that would work pretty well.
Hopefully it's not a Neves replacement, and hopefully it's bringing someone in to replace Neves as well, because I know
I'd love them to see him playing together, but I think with the whole sell to buy sort of thing, say for argument's, we've said it before, say for argument's sake, sell Neves for 55-60 million, and you can bring Palhinha in for 30, and then you've still got another 25-30 mils to spare or whatever, then that's probably going to make sense for the club. But I'm not
convinced, and you may say yes or no here, Tim, that they're going to get 55-60 million for Neves.
No. I don't think so. I think 50 tops really. I mean, they were, from what I was told, happy to sell him for 35 last summer. Has his value gone up more than 20 million in that time?
No, and he's 2 years left on his deal as well.
Yeah, which is a factor, but they can definitely get a really good fee for him. They can.
Just got to invest it properly. Just after the Liverpool game as well, big shout out to E. Fergie, who won 375 quid on BetMate. It was our biggest ever pot, so chance to win 1,500 quid. So fair play to E. Fergie, let's go and spend it on something nice. Right,
I want some money as well, wouldn't it?
yeah, but no one cares about what we
Yeah, but I want about, listen, 3 in a week
What
in
do
a
you
row,
win?
you know. I want about...
£8.
Yeah, but come on, I've won 3 weeks
He
in a row.
staked £10 to get into it, so...
Yeah, so did I. Got nothing.
Yeah,
No, let me tell the exact winnings there. I won on that. 18 quid.
Oh, 18.
Off a tenner though.
That's
Like
not
£8
£8 quid return.
Yeah.
Right, wider discussion of the overall season. I mean, Tim, just to start with, the first 3 games, we did everything but score. And then we almost changed it a little bit at Watford, went a little bit more defensive and got a result. When I first saw the first 3 games, I thought we were going to have a good season here. Did you think the same?
Yeah, I was really enthused by what we saw, but I do remember writing after that third game that they haven't got goal scorers in the squad, and only Jimenez and Hwang had hit double figures in their careers. So who were the goal scorers going to be? Are they going to improve those that are in the squad, or are they going to bring someone in? You know, there was always going to be that shortfall. I was actually really impressed with how Lars changed it around to get points on the board. I mean, he needed to do that for his own job security. You know, when you've lost your first 3, that can't carry on forever. No. And I think he looked at what strength the squad had and adapted to that. And then I think if you look come mid-January when they beat Brentford away, they were on 34 points. And that was a bit of a crossroads of the season, really, because that was at that point they were looking to maybe bring Gibbs White back. Traore's future hadn't been decided at that point, and there was still 15 days left to the window, and they're on 34 points and looking up. And looking back now, that was a really pivotal time. You know, if they brought a couple of additions in, if they brought Gibbs White back, maybe changed the formation and gone for it, we might have seen a different outcome. But the amount of points they've earned since then is just not good enough.
I know, and he did change it. I mean, the football, I think the football suffered a little bit, didn't it, Dave? But, you know, like Tim said, it's his job security. At the end of the day, he's got to get points on the board. There's no point playing lovely football if you can't score goals.
Yeah, and I think, again, it's something that we've said, I think, throughout the season, like Bruno Lage has sort of adapted and sort of almost matured as a head coach to learn what he has to do in the Premier League to sort of grind out results. I think we all want to see those attacking performances like we had seen in the first 3 games, but there were certain games that, although it wasn't the best football in the world, you know, he did things to make us at least get points on the board. So, I think it got to a point in January where the board maybe saw how well we were doing and thinking, you know, maybe bring 1 or 2 players back off loan, bulk out the squad depth. This squad could still be, you know, capable of getting European football, which obviously wasn't the case. In the end, we sort of ran out of gas. But, still, obviously he's current situation, security is up in the air, I suppose. But I
don't know if it is though. Do you, Tim? Do you think that there's question marks around him?
I was speaking to someone today, sort of asking that question. They said that they've heard nothing to suggest that that's the case. I mean, he's gone back to Portugal now. Yeah. His staff have gone. I think, you know, looking at how things unfolded last season with Nuno, if Jeff Shee was going to make that call, it would have happened already.
Yeah, we said that earlier.
Doesn't mean it won't happen in a few weeks, but I think, you know, you don't send someone away to Portugal for the summer. I think he's lucky the season has ended. You know, if there was another 6 games to go and they ended up having 15 points from 20, I mean, who's safe from that? Do you know what I mean? So it's a good opportunity now to reset, restock, and, you know, a massive summer ahead. But I know, obviously, this goes without saying, but I know the club hierarchy are really, really disappointed with how the season has finished.
That's good.
Of course. Yeah. They are. It's not like they're happy with 10th and just looking at the overall season. You know, they are really, really disappointed with how things have ended up, and they're looking into why that is. But as far as, you know, literally at this moment in time, his job security, I think he's okay.
Finn, do you think that the fact that we had such success in January, I know we beat Sheffield United in the Cup, Brentford, Man United on, was it second day of the year, do you think the club may have looked at that and thought, maybe we don't need to bring anybody in? And perhaps that's why they didn't. Because
and it's what Marcel said basically the other day, wasn't it? Sort of, okay, we'll bring a few kids back, maybe grow a bit of value in those sorts of players, qualify for Europe that way. Which would have been nice in theory, but it didn't work in the end. I remember when we got to 40 points, it was a bit of a joke. Like, I remember Bruno saying at the time, we've got to 40 now. And then after that, we didn't pick up too many. We finished on 51. And we hit 40 a long time ago. So, yeah, they have gambled there. I think with everything they've done this season, they haven't exactly splashed the cash. I mean, you've seen like Bruno's the lowest paid manager in the league. They haven't. I think we ended up with a net profit, didn't we, in transfer windows for the season. So it was a risk doing it like that, and we sort of got what we deserved in that sense, because you've seen teams spend and get in there. So
he talked about 40 points a lot, which came from nowhere really, because no one else was talking about 40.
His arse is probably going that sort of.
But like internally or externally, no one was mentioning that, and then all of a sudden, you know, they were on 34, and it's like, right, we've got to get to 40 points. I was like, well, A, that's pretty antiquated figure now. You don't need 40 to stay up. And B, I didn't think it was a very good sign to the rest of the squad, really. I don't think that's the reason they petered out. But what was really noticeable to me was how, when he had 14 players, they were winning every week. Yeah. And then I think it was the Leicester game, he had a full squad for the first time, and Bolly was left out, Hoover, Chiquinho, and somebody else. I remember thinking there was 4 seniors that weren't even on the bench. And it was around that time when he really had to think about who to play. And I know he likes approaching every game separately in a tactical way. It's not like Nuno, this is what we do every single week, and you'll really struggle to beat us because we're so well drilled. Bruno likes a one-off plan for a game, and I think he's overthought things, and West Ham game was the complete sort of prime example of that.
Bad.
A terrible team selection. I think everyone saw it when it came out, everyone saw it throughout the game, and everyone saw it post-match when he didn't come up with good reasons as to why he made those changes, that was a huge mistake. And I think we saw that at times throughout the last few weeks, that you almost had too many players to pick from.
As bad as it sounds, isn't it? Because
it was everything.
Well, everyone wants a bigger squad, but it is right. You know, when it gets to a point where we have got everyone available, then it's one of those things. I think it's strength in depth, isn't it? We have got depth as such, but as soon as you get 1 or 2 major injuries, like the central midfield was a perfect one. Saw that at Newcastle when Moutinho partnered Kundal. I don't think it really worked. So,
but that Man United away game, when people first started to notice Bruno's sort of game by game thing, when he did the post match and got a lot of praise for the sort of, this is how we wanted to play Man United because the space is here and the squad was pretty thin then as well, so it has really flipped on its head in that sense.
I don't think that the people say, we've got such a small squad. I don't think we have. I don't think it's
just midfield.
Midfields, but I mean,
not balanced maybe is the right thing. I
mean, we stacked for like wingers and wing backs, but central midfield, you saw when Neves got injured, Tim, we looked nowhere near it.
Well, that in Bruno Lage' defence, for a key period, sort of a few weeks ago, they were missing their best defender in Kilman, the best midfielder in Neves, and their best forward in Podence on this season's form. Yeah. So that's 3 really good players at team. Another thing he kept bringing up was that players, well, he didn't mention them by name, but he was like, players who we haven't had for most of the season that have come in, i.e. Neto, Johnny, Bolly, are not used to how the team plays. And again, he didn't call them out by name, but he mentioned it a few times that they basically aren't doing what he would want them to do. Neto, obviously, injury-wise, I think it took him a while to get going, which maybe didn't help. Johnny, I thought he was playing pretty well myself. Bolly, you could maybe point at, making a few mistakes in those last couple of weeks. But again, these are reasons that he's pointed towards. I think there's more to it than that, really.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I don't feel that the squad was that small. But that Leeds game, Tim, I think was, for me, the turning point for the season. We were 2-0 up, we were coasting, and we absolutely fell to pieces after the Jimenez red card. And I feel like Jimenez was a bit harshly done by with the second yellow. But
yeah, no, definitely. And Lars said the same, that was a pivotal game. And I sat down with him for a few hours about 10 days after that for a big piece for The Athletic, and he was still fuming about it 10 days later. But they did pick themselves up and beat Villa, in the next home game. So it wasn't like it was that was a direct result for the rest of the season. But it's just so un-Wolves-like. They defend. I mean, they're turn of the year. They got the 5th best defensive record in Europe. Yeah. Right. And then against Leeds,
it's gone full circle, hasn't it? Really.
Dan James, with a free header, smallest player on the field, and then Bolly just watched it all unfold and didn't move. Jose Sarr was doing all kinds of nonsense as well. It was just like, it was so unlike them. I don't know where it came from, but yeah, it was definitely a pivotal result.
He's also dug out younger members of the squad as well, hasn't he? Quite freak. I know he dug out Hoover that he made comments about, which I thought was, I don't know, a little bit close to the bone for me. He was injured. I don't think he. I
think it's just a shock to us as fans, because Nuno very rarely did it. He very rarely liked to dig out individuals publicly.
Or praise them.
Yeah, but I think behind the scenes he would have, because we saw that with 1 or 2 players. If they didn't like the way Nuno worked, or they were out the door quite quickly. Whereas I think it is quite a shock because we hadn't seen that for a number of years.
Because I know fans at the start were like, what a breath of fresh air, like he's so honest, and then it's like,
Yeah.
maybe he's a little bit too
honest.
honest. I mean, it's great for you, Tim, because you get more out of him than you ever would Nuno.
Yeah, it is. But, looking at it, not from my point of view, but as a whole, I think he is too honest. And I think that's definitely been an issue behind the scenes because he's gone against his chairman in public. When is that a good idea? Especially when you're new in the job.
Yeah.
It's not like you're desperate. You've been there 5 years and you're fearing the sack, and you're like, oh, okay, I need to make this look like it's the chairman's fault, not mine, in terms of getting another job. It literally from almost day one in August, he's saying, I need more players. Basically saying, I'm not getting the players I want. That was right at the end of August, and then he sort of continued that at the start of January. Obviously, had a word from on high because the next week he just completely changed approach. But yeah, the Hoover thing was a bombshell moment. Wasn't expecting it at all. I feel like it was a last chance from Bruno towards Hoover. This is like they've obviously been problems with him for a while. It's not come out of the blue, and they thought that a public dressing down would get his arse in gear basically. We haven't really seen him on the pitch since then.
He was injured though for about a month afterwards, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was injured.
Yeah.
Interested to see what they do with him next season. I've heard that a loan is likely because in terms of getting your money back, 9 million plus add-ons to 13. I don't think you're going to do that at this point. But there won't be clubs short of him. I know Ajax have had a look at him to take him back, which would be a nice loan move for a year perhaps.
Yeah. Do you think Wolves sees his long-term future at centre half or at right back? Because I know at Liverpool they almost saw him as a centre half.
When he came in, it was with the idea to go centre half.
I don't think he's big enough, do you?
No, absolutely not. Although interestingly, I was told a couple of weeks ago that they're really looking at Chiquinho as a wing back now, primarily for his crossing ability. Because,
I don't dislike him. I thought against the one thing I thought at City was like I watched him and you could almost tell he was a little bit quite raw because he almost at times thought, where do I actually need to be? He's like stood in no man's land. But I think definitely if you work on that, if you want to stick with a back five and you want more attacking input from your wing backs, I think it's definitely a good
Chelsea
option.
was the prime example of you're 2 goals down and he dragged him back in the game with a couple of assists. So
if you get a physical centre half on that right hand side to cover the space if needs be, I think
it's the crossing ability more than anything because we know he likes his inverted wingers who are going to cut in, so it would make sense for him to be overlapping on the right.
Yeah, and I think I'm a little bit scarred from seeing Traore at right wing back though. I think that's. I mean, against City at the Etihad, he was fantastic, and then they put him up front and he scored 2 goals. But do you think, Tim, this season the wing backs haven't performed as they should? I mean, in a system like we've got, you need them to be contributing.
I think Nori's numbers are really, really good, and he'll attract top level clubs to be interested in him. I don't know if. I don't think he's got much of a sort of reputation nationally, but he will do soon. He's that good. Marcel, I thought, had a solid season. His numbers don't look great, but he probably could have had 5 assists if Wolves had a 6-yard box striker. Probably the same for a few of them, to be honest. Like Semedo's put loads across the face, but Semedo, as much as he's stopped being calamitous and making basic errors that you wouldn't see on a Sunday League pitch, he's still not contributing enough. No. In terms of what they paid for him, that's not to do with him, but that's a club decision to pay that money, and you need more from him.
Do you know how much a deal could go up to with the add-ons?
This is where I'm always unsure whether to call him Wolves' record signing because if the add-ons go through, he'd be 37 million, which is obviously more than Silva. But when he signed, I was told that a lot of those add-ons are completely unrealistic, and that's not finishing 6th. That's like
Ballon d'Or.
Exactly. So, but either way, I think it was already up to 29 very soon after he signed, so it's probably over 30 now.
Because we did a couple of videos last night, like buy, sell, keep, and Semedo came up and these pairs said keep him, but I said if someone comes in for 20 million, I'd snap their hand off for it.
Yeah, I mean he has improved quite a bit this year. He's become a consistent right back. I think he deserves praise for that, and probably doesn't get enough praise for that because he really was really, really bad last season, in my opinion. And I know that caused a lot of debate on Twitter because people saw potential in him. But yeah, I think Wolves can do better, and they've had better, as recently as 2 years ago, in terms of output from Matt Doherty. So the whole bringing in Semedo to change the style of football, that hasn't really happened. No. So I think Wolves can do better.
You're laughing because I didn't
Doherty. I just knew it was going to be Doherty. I thought Tim wasn't going to mention the name.
I mean his outputs on paper were fantastic, weren't they? And I mean under Conte, he's been excellent at Spurs. but before it wasn't so good. You talk about 6-yard striker, Dave. What's been the problem with that this season? I mean, I think at the Norwich game, I was sitting in the North Bank and Neto got to the byline and he put a ball across the box and it was absolutely. I think Jimenez was on the edge of the 18. Do you think that's tactical, or do you think players just aren't gambling?
Bit of both, and the service part of things as well. I know there's been a lot of discussion in regards to Jimenez being sold or whatever this summer, or possibly being made available. And I don't know. I think it's happened the last 2 years. It's been obvious that we've struggled to score goals. But when you look at the amount of goals, our top goal scorer Jimenez with 6 goals. I think the last time somebody got a lower amount as that in the Premier League was, you're looking. Even McCarthy, I think Kevin Doyle was getting like 7 goals in
Fletcher
the season.
got 11 or 12.
Yeah,
didn't he?
like
I think,
so it's a shock that we haven't been able to get somebody to be as to score goals. I said to you guys earlier, Jimenez we were in a lot of competitions, but 27 goals in that Europa League season. So I think he definitely deserves another shot. Fabio, his situation and future's up in the air. I think we all know there's talent there, but we all know he needs game time as well. But I think the service is a big issue. I think we need better service into the right areas, but I think it's tactical as well. Like as a manager, you want your striker to be the furthest man forward, and at times Jimenez isn't that, or even Bruno Lage playing him out on the wing at Burnley as well. Like
yeah, that game was terrible. Finn, you're part of the Jimenez fan club, aren't you? You wanting to stay? Do you think he will stay?
I think he will. The more.
Do you know he's going to stay? Or
prefer not to speak. I think he will stay. When you look at all the, especially when we were going through last night, it was like, oh, he could go, or we might sell him. I thought, God,
I ended up with about 8 players staying,
Yeah, we could lose the whole 11 here, so he's probably got to stick around. I think when we talk about that as well, like the lack of goal scorers, I looked at because I think Jimenez is top with 6, and then he's top of assists with 4.
Yeah.
Chiquinho's third on the assists with 3, and he only started 2 games, did he? One or 2?
I think his expected assists per night, for the season, are like 26 assists.
You spread it out.
Yeah.
But so maybe that is, once you get a bit of quality service, it's like the chicken and egg. Where do you identify the main problem being? But as you say, there has been a lot of balls across the box. If that was you see Man City score 4 of them every week, don't you? Just someone being there to tap them in. And like a Sterling, not that I rate Sterling, I thought he was awful here, but someone to do that job, we don't have it, and that's where we've got a top goal scorer with 6 goals and a centre half with the top scorer. So.
What do you think they're going to do with the strikers next season, Tim? With Jimenez, Fabio, bringing someone else in. Fabio's a risk to send out on loan, I feel.
This is the problem, and they looked at it at the start of January to send him out on loan, but there's the real prospect that he goes out, does a Rafa Mir or a Bonatini at Forest, no goals in 20. Where's his value then? Where's Catroni's value now? He's got a year left on his contract. How much of that 16 million are they going to get back?
We talked about this last night.
It's such a risk to send him out on loan to the wrong place. I do feel that if they found the right Portuguese club, which wouldn't be difficult for Wolves with their contacts, that it might be a good thing for him. But it's a risk. Ideally, you want Wolves to go out and sign a senior striker, a proven goal scorer. But they can't do that unless they get rid of Jimenez or Silva. So that's the big debate for the summer, basically. In my opinion, Jimenez has got more to offer as a footballer, not just a striker and a goal scorer.
Yeah.
We see the areas, the pockets of space he gets into. Burnley was a strange experiment, but he was still kind of coming deep and drifting balls into the box. And you can just tell his awareness and his intelligence is on such a higher level than a lot of his teammates. So I think he's got an awful lot to offer. His resale value would be quite low at the moment, and I would keep him, bring in a senior striker, and send out Fabio Silva on loan. But it's got to be the right move. Obviously.
Where do you reckon is the right move? Portugal, somewhere?
So I think initially they've looked at maybe Championship, but they thought, is it going to be too physical a league for him? But then you see him in a sleeveless shirt the other day, and his guns look pretty decent to me.
Tom Parker likes his.
Yeah, he's been having his Weetabix, hasn't he? He looks like he's really built up. You can see that in his play, though. I mean, he bullied Mings and Conte here.
Yeah, he did. We just haven't seen enough of that from him. He has had a couple of good spells this season, but it's a tough one. We've barely seen him since. Did we see him after that Brighton game when he got the hook at half time? I'm not sure he actually was on the field since then.
No, I don't think so. I think in the games he's played against Championship teams as well, like in the Cup, he's been all right. Every time I've seen him play against a team in the lower opposition, even in the 23s, you can
the Sheffield United Cup game, I think he did well.
Confidence linked up really well that game.
Forest away, I think in the Cup.
start of the season,
I think he did well there. So yeah, potentially, but It's got to be the right
Yeah, I
team.
agree.
But they have. Do you know what? They have done really well with some of their loans this year, getting players to the right clubs who've really benefited. Not necessarily for Wolves, maybe, but certainly Ryan Giles is going to have a great career. Dion Sanderson, etc. And Gibbs White might come back here and do well. Sarkic. So I would trust them to get a good loan. I would.
And you touched on Catroni then. Do you have any ideas what's going to happen with him next season? Is anybody going to want him? How much is he worth? We said you'd be lucky. I reckon I'll mutually agree to terminate his contract. Because who's going to buy him?
The amount of money we've lost on that bloke, by the way, is ridiculous.
Who's been promoted from Serie B this year?
Who's gone down from Serie A?
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just a mess. Absolute shambles, that one. No other way of looking at it. This is what worries me when you look at Wolves bringing in a striker, because they haven't done very well on that front in recent years.
All the strikers have signed though, and we said this last night, are a bit too similar. Like they've all got the same profile. There's no one who's exceptional in the air or someone who can absolutely like whip it in behind.
I said that with Catrone. It was a bit of a. Although I was happy, at the time that we signed him, I thought, in hindsight, you look at it now in terms of a player. What does he bring that's different to Jimenez? Maybe in and around, within 6 yards, or whatever. He'll be deadly, but other than that, he's not quick. Not particularly quick, but in terms of hold-up play, it's nothing different to what Jimenez can offer, really. So.
There's 3 senior players, and it sounds like you guys have touched on this last night, but, Catrone, Vinagre, Traore, all are really disappointing ends to their loans. What do you do with them? There's an awful lot of potential value there, but they've had 3 really bad ends to the season. Vinagre's out of the team, Catrone's not scored.
Has Vinagre gone to Sporting on a permanent now?
I think their manager announced in January that he was permanent.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Yeah.
Is it 10 million they got for him, or 10 million euros?
Roughly,
for Vinagre, yeah. I think that's a great deal,
Not bad,
personally.
Not too bad, yeah.
He was so promising to start with, but I feel like he didn't do as well. We'll look at our predictions from the start of the season.
Skim through these.
So where are Wolves going to finish this season? Dave, you had us 12th.
Happy days.
Finn, you had us 13th. I had us 13th, and Tom, who was on the episode at the time, had us 12th. Surprisingly big impact on the team. Dave, you had Morgan Gibbs White, so you had an impact on a team, just not the team. Yeah. Yours is quite Gibbs White heavy.
A good friend of mine.
I was going to say, you can tell. Finn, your big impact on the team was Keon Hoover.
Finn, if you want to leave now.
Yeah, you
Mate,
can.
that's
Yeah.
true. You didn't specify the impact.
Positive or negative, yeah.
I had Max Kilman, so
not a bad shout.
obviously no Masaka, and Tom had Nelson Semedo, and he's done all right.
Don't mind.
Not too bad.
Unpopular opinion for the season. Dave, you had Morgan Gibbs White to be called up to the England squad by the end of the
Correct.
season.
20,
No, you specified the senior squad. Finn had Adama will double his best goal tally for Wolves in the Premier
He
League.
was on the way, by the way. It was 2 goals before he left.
Oh, was
in
it?
quick succession.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't want a Brentford
one of them
account.
disallowed.
yeah, but
Mine was Semedo to register 7+ assists in all competitions.
What did he get?
One.
Yeah. I reckon we should jack this podcast in. And Tom's was then Donker will score 15 or more goals in all competitions, which we've already touched on.
Yeah.
Dave, your top goal scorer was Jimenez, and you predicted 18.
No.
18 goals.
Not bad.
Finn, yours was Jimenez as well, 20 goals.
What were you expecting here?
And we're all Jimenez. Tom was Jimenez too, but Tom said 22 goals. Top assister, Dave, you said Francisco Trincao. So I had a better into the season. I really
many did I
like
say?
him.
Did I give you
11 assists.
Okay.
Finn, you said Adama with 10 assists.
did he get one? Did he get one?
No, I don't think he did. I had Neves and Tom had Adama. Now, our final predictions were 3 predictions for the league that didn't have to be Wolves related. So, Dave, you said Chelsea to win the league, Norwich to be relegated, and 5 goals to be scored by goalkeepers.
I think we all at this point of the podcast, like
Yeah,
Tim
we
said
were-
earlier,
yeah.
it was a late podcast. I think we were just doing a bit wild in the end there.
Finn, yours was Bruno Fernandes to get less than 10 goals.
Got 10.
Got 10.
It's not a bad shout,
I just had a massive agenda against him at the time. Yeah, I think he got 20 something the year before, but yeah, I think
It's not a bad shout,
yeah.
You had Nuno to win the Conference League.
You never know. I think we NA that one.
Yeah.
He could have done.
And, I mean, this one's a little bit loose, mate. Brentford to be a surprise package, which they've done well.
I think that's after my Brentford outburst.
Yeah,
I think I just rebelled against. Yeah, same.
And I didn't give a prediction because obviously the host, so I don't need to. And then Tom said Brentford should finish in the top 10, and they finished 13th. Villa to finish in the top 6, which I didn't,
Flopped.
and Norwich to finish bottom. So We obviously don't know.
We've got about 1 out of 3 there, you know.
Yeah, we're all right on the top goal scorer predictions.
By the numbers.
But by the numbers, but that was always going to be a given. Tim, massive summer for Wolves. I know Dave just said about Pena being linked, but can you see a massive exodus? Can you see a big turnover in players this summer?
They've definitely started talking more like that. You know,
Yeah.
I think pre-Brighton it was very different. It was right. These guys have been law servants. You know, we want to take what we've got and add a little bit. But Brighton feels like a pivotal one to me in terms of how the hierarchy think about the players. The fact they gave up for the last 20 minutes, just like come on. So yeah, it's going to be a big summer. There's a lot of panic on social media at the moment, and I'm surprised really at the negativity. Certainly in the last few days, it really seems to have been whipped up, and a lot of people want Bruno Lage to go. So yeah, it is a big summer. I mean, as ever with these things, if the club were to talk right now, they'd tell you everything's fine, and then if you go on Twitter, it's the apocalypse, and the reality is always
somewhere in between the middle.
Yeah, exactly. And there are things that need sorting out at the club, but there are a lot of things that they've done right as well. But the issue for me in terms of the summer window is that so much of it is about sell to buy. And if the right offer or the right move doesn't come in for Ruben Neves until August the 25th, then that's a massive part of your summer budget that you can't spend until late in the day. What they need to do first and foremost, in my opinion, is sort out Gibbs White and Traoré, because there are 2 sellable assets there who you can get maybe, 20 million for Traoré, for example, maybe a similar amount for Gibbs White. So if they're not going to be here next season, they need to go ASAP, and you need to reinvest that money as soon as possible, because as we all know, the amount you can get more players in for that first day of pre-season, the better. It really does make a difference.
What do you think of the odds are on Gibbs White at the minute? Obviously, I know you reported that the contract's on the table almost. Is that just to reassure him that there is game time there for him?
I think they're trying to do all they can to persuade him to stay, and I think that's quite a damning sort of indictment on how the Gibbs White sort of saga's unfolded, really, because kid's been here since he was 10 years old, so why should he need persuading? Yeah. But they are trying. Bruno Lage has sat down with him. Scott Sellers will have sat down with him as well and said to try and reassure him, because the problem with Gibbs White is he's been burned twice. Yeah. We all know the circumstances, but last season coming back on loan and not playing. Yeah. And then I don't know how many pre-season games you guys watched last summer, but I thought he was pretty much their best player overall.
I said how sharp he was on the pre-season one. I said he looked one of our best players. Even against Forest in the cup, he was really good.
Absolutely. So then to get binned off, as it were, on loan, he's been burned twice, to the extent where they offer an olive branch in January to come back, and he says no. So
you can't blame him though, can you?
No, you can't.
No.
And he made the right decision.
Yeah.
He had an unbelievable season with Sheffield United, and I know he had a horrendous experience with a penalty last week, but these are the kind of moments that make you as a player. It's how you respond from them, and he's got the right character to bounce back from that. So the decision's in his hands, is how it's been explained to me. They've done all they can to keep him, offered him a good deal, another good deal. He only had a new deal last year, so to offer him a second contract in a year is a big statement. And hopefully he stays, because I think he can make an impact next year.
Traoré, what's happening with Traoré? Any ideas? Do you think he could be used as a Mike White in the Trincao deal if the club
possibly?
want?
I think there are a lot of different options on the table, including a swap, obviously. The issue is it's in sort of Barcelona's hands, really, and
that deal was ridiculous in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a massive risk and gamble that hasn't paid off. It was questioned by an awful lot of people at the time, so nobody's saying it in hindsight, myself included, but it was massively risky. After 4 weeks, it looked like it was a great idea, and his value was going through the ceiling, but probably none of us expected that to continue, really. Traoré getting 2 assists every month or whatever, it's just not going to happen, is it? So it hasn't paid off. Having good connections with Barcelona is a very, very good thing, but in this particular instance, Wolves haven't come out of it very well. It looks pretty stupid, to be honest.
Do you think there's a possibility he could come back and run down his contract, or even sign a new deal?
We've never seen Fosun do that before. I don't think really with a top player who can be sold on for a decent amount of money. So I'd be surprised, especially given sell to buy being a policy, if they brought him back. I mean, he's not on astronomical wages, which is the problem, as far as Traore is concerned.
That's what they're expecting now, isn't it? Wasn't he expecting to be like a top earner?
They offered him quite high wages.
That was the sticking point. He wanted to be basically the top earner. The eventual offer that came in was sort of,
Up there.
top three. Yeah. But he still said no, and by this point Barcelona were interested, so his head's off.
I can't see from his point of view how he can expect to be the top earner when he's not putting the numbers in. We all know how talented he is, as a footballer, but if you're not scoring the goals and you're not getting the assists, you cannot expect to be the top earner.
You're right, but then when you've got Nuno in public saying he's a unique talent in world football, then that's what he's.
They should have sold him then, I think. When they valued him, was it 80 million euros?
I don't think anyone would have.
That's a hands-off one if ever I've seen one.
But then guess if you get involved and sign him up around that time, and the writing's on the wall. Really, we saw exactly the same with Matt Doherty going to Spurs shortly after he signed up. So I'd be really surprised if no deal happened this summer.
Francisco Trinca, I mean, Finn, you're like me. We change our mind every couple of minutes about him. Would you like to see him back at Molineux next season?
Ask me in 2 minutes, but at the moment, no. No, it's a tricky one, and as you say, it's not a simple yes or no because of the Traore deal. Could we be used like that? How we've managed to let Barcelona basically hold all the cards in that one, it's a bit of a mystery. But Chelsea game, I'm saying yes. I mean, West Ham away, I'm saying definitely no. The bloke didn't even want to stand on the pitch, let alone kick the ball for us. So there's talent there, which is why no one can give the definite no, he's useless, because I mean, we've been scarred. I saw Vitinha got team of the season on FIFA yesterday, and I'm thinking, God.
I think that's Finn's second FIFA reference to this podcast.
I've had loads that have gone through my head. I was going to say Gibbs White's living out my player career, playing football. But no, all logic says no, but there's just that thing in the back of your mind where you've seen flashes of talent that you kind of don't want to let it go. But realistically, over a season, he hasn't shown enough at all.
Do you think the club have made their mind about Trinca?
No, they haven't. No. And I think they've warmed to him a little bit more as the season's gone on. And Chelsea away and a couple more performances. I mean, for me, he's done it in 3 or 4 games and not in 30.
Yeah.
But maybe it's an adaptation period to the Premier League.
He's still a young lad as well.
He's clearly he's extremely talented. All options are on the table, really. I've heard suggestions that they could buy him and maybe loan him out for a season, or a straight swap deal with Traore. I like him as a talented footballer. I really do. I think he's got something in him, but that's a risk for 25 million, isn't it?
You want someone
if
who's
Barca said straight swap, I'm not going to say no money changes hands because I think for FFP it probably would. But if it was a straight swap, would you say yes?
God, it's such a tough one, isn't it? Because in terms of value, they've probably got pretty similar value because Traore's value is going down by the month. Maybe. Yeah.
I think Trincao's got the years, a little bit more potential at the minute as well, hasn't he?
I think he's seeing higher.
For an unhappy player that's got 1 year left on his contract, or a guy with the pitch.
Is Trincao happy at Wolves?
Well, I think from what I'm told, he came in, and I sort of saw it myself really. He came in with the attitude that I'm from Barcelona and what am I doing here?
Yeah.
And I sort of get that because he'd gone from Braga, bought by Barcelona, the biggest thing that's ever going to happen in his life, and then 12 months later he's been loaned to a Premier League club he's probably not heard of 2 years earlier. So but still it doesn't really make an excuse for not having the correct attitude. I think we saw, you saying you saw every pre-season game, we saw that attitude in pre-season because he just looked like he wasn't
his body language is terrible.
Awful.
Yeah, him and Silva, when you see him warming up and they're just they couldn't give a fuck
together.
But I remember speaking to one of his former coaches at Braga last summer, and he said he's got everything as an attacker. What he doesn't have is physicality. And I just remember thinking at that time, okay, right, so that's going to be an issue in the Premier League. But maybe after a year, getting used to that intensity.
Full pre-season maybe as well at Wolves.
We see it a lot.
Get him on the silver diet.
We do see it a lot with other players who, like Vitinha, he struggled to get used to it's the intensity more than anything. Vallejo would be another one. Like he was
finalist on Saturday.
Spain under-21 captain, an absolute dream at that level, but just could not handle the pace and the intensity of the Premier League at all. So, if they think Trincao can overcome that, then I think they'll sign him.
Moutinho, I know you said that they've offered him 1 year. He thinks he deserves a second year. Can you see him staying?
It's a tough one. I appreciate the club's position on this one because if you've got a 37-year-old who's not playing very often and he's almost your top earner or essentially your top earner, that doesn't make financial sense.
No.
However,
He's had a good season as well.
Yeah, he's had a good season. You know, his numbers are really, really good and very comparable with Neves. So I would offer him. I would offer him 2 years. I think there might be some kind of compromise where there's sort of an incentivised. You play this amount of games in your first year, or performance-related incentives. Then okay, you'll get your second year, maybe at a reduced wage, 80%, whatever. There's so many. It's not just 1 or 2 years. There's so much more that goes into these contract talks. But he wants to stay. That's the big thing, and that's amazing, really. You know, he's been here 4 years, and he still wants to stay. So Mendes is the man pulling the strings on that one, and I guess he'll be looking to see what other options are available at this point before they make a final call.
Do you think that's the same sort of situation in regards to Ruddy? Obviously, he's leaving the club, and it was said today that decision was made above Bruno Lage. Do you think it's financially, maybe the club have looked at that and thought we probably can get a keeper on much less wage than John Ruddy is at the minute?
I don't think he wasn't on a huge amount of money anyway. I didn't like that, to be honest. Just in terms of how it was handled, I think it looks awful.
Yeah.
You've got your head coach saying on Friday. I just asked him directly in the press conference, "Do you want to keep John Ruddy?" "Yes, I do," and stated why. And then I think it was Saturday that Ruddy was then told, "Well, no, actually, you're not staying," and not by Bruno Lage. It's not good. Doesn't bode well for the summer ahead. You need. It's not always going to be the case, but you need your head coach, your technical director, and your chairman on the same page. At least publicly. Yeah. Like, they can be arguing as much as they want behind the scenes, but if you've got a manager saying one thing and then a few days later the player reluctantly leaves, it's not a good sign.
I think the Instagram post said it all. The fact that he probably thought, I've been thrown under the bus here, and he put like, well, it looks like it's my last game for Wolves, and I thought that was so strange, almost a bit of a like,
that's a professional guy.
You can read between the lines, and I think he was expecting to stay. He certainly wanted to stay. He's very happy here, settled. Not good at all.
No. Let's move on to our awards. So we've got Player of the Season, Underperformer of the Season, Most Improved Player, Unsung Hero, and Sign of the Season. Dave, who's been your Player of the Season?
I'll stick with it. I voted for him officially on the Wolves thing, so Jose Sarr for me.
Jose Sarr.
Phenomenal season.
It is Sarr.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, but he's made the single biggest difference to any Premier League team in terms of a new signing.
Easy.
That's just phenomenal. But I've loved what Neves has done for most of the season, but my favourite is probably Kilman. Just for the journey, Maidenhead to Premier League. I think it's incredible what he's done, and probably doesn't get enough attention.
Finn, who's been your Player of the Season?
Yeah, Sarr.
Sarr.
It's Sarr, yeah. Unless you want to create any debate, but Kilman's a good shout. But it's been Sarr.
Well, we looked at the stats the other day, and it was goalkeepers who prevented goals, and like Alisson was on 3rd, and Sarr was like top on 9. Like,
imagine if he saved a penalty as well.
I don't think
that's the only thing he's quite shit at. Like his penalty.
penalties weren't included in that, by the way.
Oh, they're not.
No. Well, that's what I said. The exact same thing, because that would have been mad if he'd saved a couple of penalties.
Dave, your Underperformer of the season.
Probably Trincao, just because when he came in, I think I expected a lot more from him. So I'll probably say him.
Tim?
Yeah, I was going to say the same. Purely for the talent that he's got, he's just not done enough.
Finn?
It's a good shout, yeah. I struggled because we'd had these questions before, peering behind the curtain. I still couldn't think of someone to say for this post-injury Wang, but I think over the whole season, it's probably Trincao, yeah.
I will come on to Wang in the questions, because a lot of the questions are just about him being absolutely peppered. Dave, Most Improved Player?
Probably say Kilman. I think this time last year I was probably happy if a decent offer came in for him, even from a Championship club. I think I said I would have accepted it. So yeah, definitely Kilman.
Tim?
I think the only thing I say about Kilman is we did sort of see it a bit last season, but I didn't think Nuno gave him enough opportunities really. Yeah. But in terms of one season to the next, it's got to be Semedo, because he was just so bad last year, and now he's been all right.
Finn?
I was going to say Semedo just because I think from March onwards we haven't really had that fresh in our minds as like a recency bias thing, but yeah, from last season. I always thought last season he was good in the middle third, but it's those two key thirds. I think he could still get better finishing wise. I think I had him to score first for the first 10 games at 50-1 and then quickly gave up.
Again, like we said last night on the videos, he picked up some good positions this season.
Watford should have had a hat-trick.
Yeah. So, if he can sort of recreate those positions or getting into those positions next season a lot more, he should be able to.
And he stopped kicking people up in the box and stuff now, so it helps.
Dave, who's been your unsung hero this season?
Unsung hero?
This is the other one I struggled with.
This would have been an easy question. It come like January, February, because they're all heroes. Now it's like...
That's
Well, they were all being sung for.
That's a tough question. I think maybe the only other person that I've not really mentioned is maybe Neves, but I think that's going to be quite a bit. He's been quite a big part of it, hasn't he? So I don't know. I think the players that deserve recognition are getting recognition. So I'll probably have to say Neves.
Tim?
I've taken this quite literally. I think Unsung, for the stuff that he does, which just does not get appreciated, is probably Connor Cody.
Yeah.
I think people take for granted what he does, what he offers the team. In terms of mentally and organisation and leadership, and just what an astonishing captain and role model he is for the club. I think people massively take him for granted, to be honest. And the hero aspect, he is for me. I think he's everything you want from a captain, and he plays that role so well. And he makes mistakes, but I just think people take him for granted so much. The fact that he's been in the England squad for 18 months now, and he's probably going to go to a World Cup, and you see Tyrone Mings getting left out the squad now, and Cody's still there, and people just think it's because he's got a great personality. No, he offers an awful lot on the football pitch as well. Think, like I said, people take it for granted.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't see what happens behind the scenes about the training ground. We were speaking to someone earlier at the club, and they said apart from as a footballer, he said we'd be lost without him at the club, because when someone's having a bad day, or you've got players who are quite introvert, he brings them into the squad. And I think a lot of fans might see him making a mistake at the weekend, but
I think for 3/4 of the season he's been very, very good, and I think we'd mentioned that quite a lot. He wasn't the only player that sort of whose levels have dropped over the last few months, but I think, or the last couple of months rather. But I think for a large part of the season he's had a much better season than last.
I think that's something to keep an eye on for next season, is leaders, because Spiers is a really popular dressing room figure, and Moutinho obviously is a captain in all but name, and Neves is vice captain. 3 really important senior figures there. If they go, they really need replacing, because
Ruddy in the
sorry, I meant to say Ruddy as well. That's what brought me onto it, really. Yeah.
Do you think? What do you think that would mean, like in terms of the transfer window? Do you think Wolves would possibly look at slightly older players, or at least more experienced players?
That's the thing. From what I'm told, they're looking at a younger squad, and they want a sort of a hungry young squad for a new cycle.
You'll never win anything with kids, remember?
But it's that. It's always that balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think they need a couple of experienced heads, like with Sace going as well. Obviously, like Tim's just said, like a real leader. Say if those players all went, where'd you go from there? Who's going to step up?
I think it's hard, even an experienced player, just to come into a brand new environment and just say, right, I'm here now, I'll lead the team. It's not as easy as that. I think these players. It's not just that they are good leaders or whatever, but they've been here a number of years as well. So it's going to be, again, annoyingly, probably another transition season next year, which is like the 3rd in a row, really, isn't it?
It's a pretty quiet squad, to be honest. People like Jimenez and Johnny, like Nori, they're really quite quiet characters, really. Cody makes up for that, but yeah, it's definitely something to keep an eye on for this summer. Dave, signing of the season.
Sarr again,
Sarr.
Easy, yeah.
Tim?
Joe Hodge is like, it's been...
Joe?
Because you were all going to say Sarr. So.
Joe Hodge.
It's been alright, since he got back from injury, Joe Hodge.
On Monday night, he was unbelievable.
Yeah, he's been good.
I wasn't expecting that. Finn?
Sarr. Yeah,
Sarr.
But
Have a bit of
Unsung.
imagination. That's why Tim's here.
Can we give a shout out to Prudence for Unsung, please? Because I never got asked. I just think...
Sorry, mate.
It's alright, it's alright. Just up until, that stat we put out the other week where it was like, Wolves haven't scored a goal since Prudence has played or whatever. And then I thought, maybe I didn't appreciate him as much when he was there. That's my only shout, but yeah.
He's so much of a whinger for me.
Oh yeah, he is that. But
it's like when he goes down and rolls around and like we're pinned in our own half, and he's sitting on the floor and he's absolutely fine. Like I think if he took that out of his game, it'd be.
I don't dislike. I don't think he does it as much. Too much to annoy me, I don't think.
No, it annoys me. Perhaps that's like Brexit football in me, like, and the tweet. Pretty foreign.
He'd be a nightmare to live with, because he moans on social media a lot.
You see the tweet that you liked the other day.
The reels he would do on referees for a while before he got told not to. I just think he's just constantly just whinging.
Yeah, his girlfriend. Yeah, every decision she'll have to be talked through when he gets home.
Before we get onto the questions, chaps, just want to go through Wolves' bet mate team of the season. So, of course, in goal we had Jose Sarr, who was in fact the best keeper in the league. He scored 210 points, and we had Sace and Kilman at the back. In the middle, we had Neves and Moutinho, And up top, we had Jimenez and Dave's favourite, Hwang Hee-chan.
I picked him a lot for bet, mate, because I don't know how he got decent numbers. But
Tim, what's your thoughts on Hwang and the decision to sign him? Well, trigger it in January.
I mean, 12 million's, it's decent money for. I think he's pretty much South Korea's sort of second most popular player, and I know that people don't want to hear about that, but Son is like a god in South Korea, and if Hwang's sort of next in line, that does mean a lot commercially, but purely on the field, his like shot conversion rate is excellent.
I know.
It's for people who regularly have shots in the Wolves squad, he's double as good as everyone else. I think he's on like 18 or 19%, and Jimenez is sort of next on about 10%. So that's why I was sort of really disappointed with how he tailed off towards the end of the season, because he can finish. There's those two finishes against Newcastle. I know it's only one game, but that's exactly what you want from him.
Oh, yeah.
So there's something worth persevering with there. It was an absolute no-brainer to sign him on that pre-Christmas form. Everybody was completely universal that they had to sign him. And now it seems like it's the complete opposite way. So again, there's got to be some middle ground there, and the middle ground is probably the price. That 12 million is not a huge amount of money.
Could they not have waited until the summer though to do it? Because we said, look, how about if he broke his leg in Jan or Feb?
Yeah, there is that.
And with most players, though, to be fair.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was some kind of clause in that. Whereas, if he did get a serious injury, maybe that he wouldn't have gone through. But I still think they'd have signed him anyway. To be honest,
Bruno seems to like him. He
loves him,
and he buys him cookies.
I was going to say cooks. I mean back.
Cookies.
That was the weirdest question.
Everyone on Twitter was fuming about that,
sister,
saying this is the kind of culture we've got in our club. So
It was his birthday.
Is there any chance it could be sold in summer, like a Fogarty type deal?
I guess it can't be ruled out, but it would certainly be against Bruno Lage's wishes because he loves him.
And who's going to buy him his cookies?
I'm thinking Jesse Marsh at Leeds. Salzburg, Leipzig, who knows?
Well, the Leeds are big fans of Traore as well, aren't they?
Can both.
So, all right, but we have no squad left.
Do your deal.
Pimping them out, mate. We have no squad.
Who do you reckon cooks the best cookies in the Wolves squad if he leaves?
I don't know. I think Martino looks like he could do a little bit of baking. What do you reckon, Tim?
Joe Hodge, probably. I think.
Are you on commission for Hodges next anyway?
No, I'd say maybe Kilman.
Kilman?
Yeah. Okay. He seems like the most normal person in the whole squad, I think.
Do you think?
Yeah.
I seem to think, well, I've never met him, but a little bit strange.
Yeah, slightly quirky, but just like a normal person. He's not like polished like all footballers are.
I've actually got a Joe Hodge story,
Have you?
I don't know if Finn will remember. We went to the 23s game a few weeks ago. And I didn't know, I hadn't been to a 23s game in ages. I didn't know if they came to the crowd for pictures or whatever. But he came across, and there was a young girl, I assume was a younger sister, and another girl there, quite well built, saw her from behind, sound. So it must be his missus. Turned round, mate. She must have been, it was obviously his mom.
Oh, right.
I said to Finn, look at it, it's Mrs. What's she like? Turned round, it was his mum, mate. I wasn't right, Rick.
Good job we didn't say that to him. Is that your missus over there?
I hope he's not listening as well. I think me and Tim are proper weird.
We've had loads of questions coming, but a couple from us first. Tim, have you heard anything more on the pre-season tour? I know that America's off the cards. What have you heard anything about Central Europe?
I think they're closing in on a country. But I probably shouldn't reveal it. But whatever, it'll come out when it comes out. And it's not ideal. But I think from a football point of view, I don't think
makes sense.
I don't think Lars should be unhappy at all.
No.
I mean, the plan that they had for America involved, for internal flights, cross states.
We were going to go. I'm glad you said that because it would have been a fucking expensive trip if that was the case.
Yeah, both coasts. Well, you'll probably know more than me, but I was in both coasts. I thought, oof.
I think they were going from Ohio to California.
Cali would have been nicer.
So, but the way it was going, I think they were playing like Louisville City in a match, and I was looking through their squad. I was like, oh my god, this is like
they have mid-season
not worth
well,
it. Yeah, there is that. So. I'll tell you what, it's an embarrassment from the club's point of view because they've been looking at doing this for 2 years. Yeah. So for it to fall through at the last minute is not good. But I think Bruno Lage won't be unhappy with a week in Europe.
Yeah, I think it might.
But the key is opposition because now you organise it so late in the day. Who are the top level teams that they can play against?
I've seen people on Twitter saying, "Oh, you got to be playing Bayern, you got to be playing Dortmund." I was like, probably had their friendlies wrapped up like 6 months ago.
But also, you want to build up your confidence during pre-season.
Don't want to put Joe Odgin against Bellingham there. Right.
I would actually, mate.
Jude Bellingham versus
Joe Hodge. The making of. Right, questions here from Twitter. So this one keeps coming up a lot, and we've said we think it's nonsense, but Ivan Toney to Wolves a potential target. Have you heard anything about that?
Elite Wolves signing.
Nothing recent.
No.
I mean, they've looked at him for years. I think they had him in the building at one point ready to sign. But yeah, I'd be amazed if Brentford let him go to Wolves.
Yeah.
And a big fee as well now, I think.
Massive fee. When he was at Molineux though, I thought he was excellent.
The thing is with stuff like this, I know it's done the social media rounds, but the original source it came from isn't great either. So
Yeah, and it's like 90 min or team talk always like
exactly.
those stuff. It's almost
Say no more.
throw enough shit at a wall, it'll stick, won't it? Tim, what's your opinions on the culture of chopping and changing managers? Because I don't believe it's fair on Bruno if he's sacked. What's your opinion on that? Because I know that some clubs have quite a bit of success from having a manager for a season, they do well and get rid of him, and it's almost like quite cyclical. But
yeah, but that depends on recruitment, doesn't it? And that's why Chelsea have managed to do it so successfully, because their recruitment's been so good. So I wouldn't say a year would be chopping and changing. I think you've had a very good look at him. You know his strengths and weaknesses. I don't think it would work for Wolves if they started chopping and changing. No, because the recruitment hasn't been good enough.
Whoever's in charge this summer, if it's Bruno or someone else, just got to make sure you back him. And whoever you got in charge, Mourinho, Lars, whoever, if you're not backing them, they're going to do a good job with his current squad. So.
We had a question here. What positions do you think Wolves are looking at as their primarily where they need to strengthen for the summer?
Probably pretty self-explanatory. Down the spine, because they're well stocked at wing back. They've got at the moment a good group of wide forwards. Yeah. It's we talked about striker earlier. Midfield is blindingly obvious and has been for a while. As a centre back. So yeah, those are the key areas.
Can you see them going to potentially a back four?
Oh, he wanted to do it last summer. Yeah. Saw it a few times.
Wasn't great, was it?
No, it wasn't great.
No.
Who was the Spanish second lead opposition that tore through them? Yeah.
We were crap against them.
Yeah, it was abysmal. So it's something he wants to do. He wants two formations basically, for more tactical flexibility, and he wants players who can fit in both formations. So I definitely think we'll see it being road tested this summer.
If we went to a back four, could you see Connor Cody moving into a more midfield?
Every week.
God, what is the obsession with shoehorning players into
Cody in the Neves role?
Oh my
Even I was listening to the Express at Star podcast, even Judah and Liam Keane hated it.
Everyone's like, we'll push Sykes and Cody into the middle. I imagine them against like De Bruyne and Rodri. Honest to God.
I think I remember saying 2 years ago, if we could have the flexibility to go from a 4 to a 5, it's effectively. I remember saying at the time, if you take out Cody for Gibbs White, or you put it's taking that 3 and giving a number 10.
I remember when Dave said played Neves as the Cody role as like a quarterback. I was like, what the fuck hell are you on about?
Maybe I said that in jest.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely.
Later in his career, maybe. But loses the yard pace.
But that's sort of the role, isn't it? Having the 3 at the back, or having that number 10 that we often lack. And had one for
I think like against the big six, as we've seen only in the past few weeks, 3 at the back or 5 at the back on the counter attack. Wolves can play that really, really well. Mm-hmm. But Norwich at home, Burnley at home. Yeah. Did the score against Norwich or Burnley this season? What, 1 against Norwich?
Yeah. We didn't beat either of them, did we?
Nope.
Didn't beat either of them.
Didn't beat Leeds either this season.
It's those games where you need a more attacking formation.
If Morgan Gibbs White is staying, does that give insight into a potential formation change for next season? Because personally, I don't know about you, Tim, but I don't think he fits into the style that we play currently.
I mean, I've watched him a couple of times for Sheffield United, drifting in from the right. He's got a decent left foot on him, so it's not necessarily. But I think if Gibbs White were to stay, from what I'm told, it's not Gibbs White or Trincao, but it does have an impact because like I said, they've already got a number of good players in those positions.
So you see him more out wide rather than centrally, because he's played centrally for Wolves a couple of times.
Even in a 5-3-2 though, I think that's what we've lacked again with his 3 midfielders: Donk, Neves, Matinho.
That third midfielder, don't you? Like
2 or 3 midfielders there that are probably again quite similar. Donk was the man that was pushing further forward. If you've got an actual attacking midfielder making those same sort of runs, I think
we're way more defined, weren't they? If you've got Paulinho as well, who's more defensive than any of those 3 we currently have, and then you've got Gibbs White who's more attacking.
I think it can work. I just think the last few years we've never had a system. I think when Morgan was at the club under Nuno, it was pretty much the 3-4-3 or the 5-2-3. And sort of we've always swapped when he sort of hasn't been in and around the squad. So I think a free in the midfield could definitely work with him.
Tim, are Wolves going to be doing their transfer business early, or are they going to leave it to the last minute as usual?
We all know the answer to that.
What do you think of Bruno's comments about wanting all his players in before the start of pre-season?
I don't know, everyone says that, and Wolves would love to do that, but they don't dictate the market, do they? So.
Just a couple of questions here, a little bit more fun one. So, Tim, if you were a player, what position would you be, and also your 3 club path? So, where you break through, your big money move, and where would you retire?
God, that's
Should have prepped him for that one.
Yeah.
I've always had a soft spot for Arbroath in the Scottish Championship, so I'll probably break through there. Really. Where's my big money move?
If you're from Arbroath,
Real Madrid signed Arbroath starlet.
Tim Spiers
to Verona, maybe in Italy.
Nice.
That's the Italian club that I follow. So
Okay.
I think that for Arbroath to sell me to Verona would
It's not too bad.
be the biggest transfer in their history. So I still think you could call it a big money move. And then I'd come and retire here probably,
would you?
if that's allowed.
Yeah.
What position?
Yeah.
A right-footed left back.
Inverted fullback.
That's right.
Joao
That's how I play.
Cancelo.
That's me. That's me on Football Manager as well.
Any particular reason?
No.
No.
I can't play.
Back on
I
the
can't play
bench, on the
football, so I'm just making it up.
Dave, what about you, mate?
I'm also, was a right-footed left back. Don't know. Start at Wolves. Make my way up to. Don't know. Big club somewhere, maybe like Real Madrid or something.
Could you leave Wolves? I don't think I could, you know.
Yeah, doing Neves on it, done all I can here. Go to Madrid, end my career in Malta.
And your career Malta.
Nice.
What about you, Finn?
I think if I started at Wolves, I don't think I'd leave. So I'm going to have to end at
You're like
Wolves.
Tony Hibbert, aren't you?
Yeah.
I
Stevie
think you'll have
Ball.
to take hide your United shirts out your wardrobe.
I'd have to end at Wolves, I think. I'll start at. I'm going to be a target man somewhere in Sweden.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
this is so
I'm going to
niche.
start at Copenhagen. No, it's not Sweden.
Yeah, that's Sweden,
but no, you know, Scandinavia. Where I'm going to be I'm going to come through in Scandinavia as a target man,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to be like an impact sub for the last half an hour for Barcelona.
It's a
So
target.
they're just going to throw the tiki-taka, and then just chuck me on. I'm going to bag a few, then Wolves are going to have me at the end.
Wolves are at the end. I like that. Tim, was there any
So you get away with answering all
No,
that.
I'm the host, mate. That's what I do. Have there been any transfer rumours or that you know of, or signings that Wolves have been really close to make over the last few years that just haven't got over the line? I know Nick Powell was one, wasn't he? Almost. There's a picture of him on the
With
shirt.
Danny Loader as well.
I think, yeah.
Signed Danny Loader on Football Manager.
Nick Powell's the one that first came to mind, because that's really early when I started at the Express and Star, I think.
Sanchez maybe last year.
Sanchez last year, that was close.
What happened was that? Was it like medicals that
Zoom
fell
medicals.
through? It was actually Zoom medical.
Yeah, it was medicals initially, but I think had they had the complete information that they would have signed him. I know they regretted it a few months later when he came back from injury
Like
earlier.
October, November. Or
He was
whatever
back in
it was,
4 weeks, wasn't he?
But they were already like I don't think he'd ever played more than 60% in a season, and probably still hasn't. So for the money, that they were always a little bit cautious.
Yeah.
Who would be the other one? Steve Sidwell was very close, wasn't he, back in the day? I think he was in the
He
stands.
locked himself in the car, didn't he? And McCarthy was like, "You fuck you, weren't you?" Because he was on the phone to Fulham, wasn't
Yeah,
he?
that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a couple, 2 or 3 years ago, there was mention of Robbie Keane coming back. Was there anything in that?
No, I don't think so. That was halfway through the championship season, wasn't it? That was. I remember asking people about that and getting laughed at.
Rashford.
Yeah, have you heard the Rashford rumour?
I remember that one.
Yeah.
That was came out during a pre-season tour, didn't it? But he was really decent at the time.
Yeah.
No.
We're just dispelling all the.
It's hilarious, especially how these rumours come about. It's frustrating for me as a journalist, but you get used to it. But 90% are bullshit, and probably the same amount are done on purpose, really. From either from agents or clubs or players to put it out there. And I don't think people mind that though anymore. You know, people see it as a bit of a. It's just part of football now,
Yeah.
and I think that people like rumours even if they're not true.
Well, we're talking Wolves. We've made a living out of this.
But then they'll get angry at you, Tim, when you actually say no, it's a load of bollocks.
Yeah.
So there you
Does
get
that
in the
not
neck.
wind you up when you almost squash a rumour? Like when you squash a rumour and people call you a wanker.
It's a daily occurrence. So after 7 years, you just get used to it. Really,
Does he not bother you?
it used to really annoy
Yeah.
me because I'm like, I'm actually trying to help here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Well, what's
clarify.
at that point in sort of
Yeah.
our social media
So I
presence
remember speaking
now,
to Joe Edwards when he was covering Wolves, and he was just like, honestly, the amount of stick that I get just for giving someone a 6 out of 10, it's ridiculous. I mean, you probably get it the most, don't you?
So you asked me earlier about mix zone. I can say it because he wouldn't mind. But yeah, Ryan Bennett. It was he just stopped talking to me because I was not giving him a good enough mark in the player ratings.
Has any other player done anything like that based on something you've wrote about?
Benny Kafobi wasn't happy with the 5 out of 10 once as well.
Did they read them?
Probably sent
that
him
was
quite
sort
a
of
bit as well,
like that was like sort of championship days, I suppose, where there was no other press attention on Wolves. So yeah, they would read them. They probably still do now. To be fair, I would.
Yeah.
I'm scared if they watch our match reactions or anything.
Well,
I don't mean we're nasty. We're not nasty, though.
I think we're kind of quite.
Balanced, then.
Yeah, we give constructive criticism. So is that where it stops with the arseholes? Are there any other arseholes over your time covering Wolves who you've met in the mix zone?
Nathan Judah.
Lots of staff, but not really players.
No.
I'm certainly not calling Ryan Bennett an arsehole, by the way. It was just yeah, he just basically just didn't want to talk to me anymore.
Did he say that's because you give me a 5?
And it came back to me through someone else, and then I saw him at the promotion piss up at the end of that season, and I can't remember what he said now. I'd had a few myself.
Doesn't sound like you two.
It was something like. I'll see you next season. And he was like, "Yeah, you probably give me another 6 out of 10 or something." As he
6
walked out.
bless. Yeah. 6 is just the average. You ain't nothing too bad, but you haven't been fantastic.
Can't be offended
either,
with a
so
6.
6, yeah.
No. Boys, any other questions before we wrap it up?
One maybe, Tim, that was touted a few weeks ago. Guedes. Is there anything else on that? Or
So he's one again. Given who he is and his agency, he's just constantly sort of on Wolves' radar. Obviously, because they know it's a deal that they can do. So that link will perpetually be there, really. And yeah, I think if a forward option came up this summer, then he'd be right at the top of the list for them.
going back to what could have been, Talisker was out. I think he's still on the aeroplane somewhere.
So that was a funny one. That was early Mendes days.
Yeah.
And just being a sort of a local reporter on the patch, it's not like I could just call George up and ask him. But that was, at that point, there were like 2 clubs within a club. And it still exists really in a way, but you've got Mendes and Guestafute doing things that people at the club just don't really know about.
Yeah.
But I do remember, being very specific with certain people, and they were like, it's literally not happening. And you've got people. I remember he got pictured at Birmingham Airport, although it was an old photo, and people were tracking his flight, people saying he's in the building, and people at the club were just like, no, it's just not happening.
But when stuff like that happens, and you've got all these kind of stories coming out, and mostly fueled by their agents if they want to move, you speak to the club, will they tell you no, it's not happening, just so it's almost like don't use us as a bargaining tool?
I don't think I've ever been lied to.
Yeah.
Because then they know if they lie to me, whoever I'm speaking to, then I wouldn't bother trusting them again. You've got to have that level of trust. So no, they're depending on who you can get hold of, they're pretty good at confirming or denying. What they don't like, obviously, is if it's sort of early stages and nobody really knows about it, then they don't want it out there.
Yeah.
And they are very good on that front. Mm-hmm. They're a really good private club, and I think if stuff does get out, a lot of it does tend to be overseas, via agents and through Portugal. You boys will know.
Yeah.
So no, but they're a really good club to deal with on the whole. They really are.
Finn, any other questions before we wrap it up?
Don't think so. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, Tim, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate.
Cheers, guys.
I really enjoyed it. I'd say, where can people find you should they wish, but I think everyone knows it's at Tim Spiers, so should be fine. Dave, where can people find you should they wish?
Yeah, well, before we finish, I'd like to thank everyone, obviously, for watching or listening to the podcasts. Yeah. Our other guests have been on Tom Parker.
Yes, we've had a lot
Kieran
of contributors
Barker,
this year.
George Russell, and Harry Mansell as well. I think that's everyone. But yeah, at Dave As a Party on Twitter and Instagram.
Finn?
at Finners, FINERRZ on everything.
Yes, and a big thank you from me for all the support this year. It's been phenomenal, and of course all those people who've contributed, even with the fans react, the likes of Biv and Harry. So massive thanks for that, and yeah, thanks for all the support. Dave, do you want to do the usual YouTube end?
Thank you to Oars as well. We had a play on the pitch game going on behind us. There was some. I was peering over.
Missed a good game, I think. Yeah.
There were some shockers there. But yeah, anyone watching, listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, be sure to leave us a rating, hit the like button on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, and obviously we'll have loads of content coming out this summer.
See you later.